right, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About This. I am your host, Crystal Hicks. My guest today is Adam Darrow. Adam is an entrepreneur. He's a adventurous. He's worked on Wall Street, and he has a list of other things that he does. I'm going to let him talk to you about that. Adam, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me.
That's good. That's good. Where are we chatting from, matter of fact? Where are you at right now?
I'm currently in Brooklyn,
Oh, okay. You're in Brooklyn. Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New
Okay.
York. Yeah.
All right. I haven't been up to
Gr-
Brooklyn. It's been a while since I've been up to Brooklyn.
yeah, I grew up here, so this
Oh,
is this is
yeah.
where I'm from. Yeah.
I used to come up there a lot back in the day when my daughter was younger. My daughter she was trying to break into the music industry, and I used to take her to Brooklyn on Grand Concourse, I think it was.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think that's in the Bronx. The Grand
Oh,
Concourse
that's
is
the
in the
Bronx.
Bronx.
That's the
Yeah, yeah,
Bronx. You're
yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah. The Bronx. That's what I'm thinking about. But yeah, I used to take her up there often to record at a studio. This was when she was younger, but she got out of music and she's a mom raising two twins right now. So, that's her thing, what she's doing right now. But anyway, I'm glad to have you on.
Thank you.
And
Good to be here.
just tell me a little bit about yourself. I was reading a little bit about on your bio. I see that you're a adventurer. You like to live on the edge. Uh,
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Tell me a little
sure.
bit about that.
So, I grew up in New York City in the 80s, and well, New York City was a pretty rough and tumble place back then. And I think I really developed a taste for adventure and the edge, so to speak.
Okay.
Being went to public school, and it was a very wild time in the city, not very safe. But after leaving home and venturing out into the country, I really got interested or got connected to the extreme sports world, like high-end rock climbing and snowboarding, backcountry snowboarding, base jumping, skydiving, that kind of stuff. I really got very involved in these adventure sports and adventure racing, and started competing and actually teaching in these sports a lot throughout my 20s. So I really developed a taste for that sort of high adrenaline lifestyle. Uh, from there, as I got into my 30s, I took all that I learned in those sports, and there was a lot of learning that went on about fear and about emotions and how to be very focused even when the world around you is going to shit.
Right.
And I took all that and then I applied it to the business world. In my 30s, I started getting into business, got into tech, then eventually went to Wall Street, and then from there decided I wanted to go my own way and started my own businesses. And what was remarkable is how much of the learning from my sporting experience and competing experience and being in these extreme environments experience was easily translatable to the business world and really assisted me. And when I was in difficult situations or stressful situations, I could really call up all that training.
Hmm.
And that was great until about my late 30s. I met this woman, Jane, who the book is about, meeting her in my relationship, who was beyond any kind of woman I'd ever met in my life. Just very sexually wild and over the top, wanted this crazy relationship. And so I really fell for her. She was the full package. We can get into that later. But then once again, I had to apply all these skills that I had learned throughout my life in business and in sports to try and navigate this relationship. So I've always considered myself something of an experience hunter, something of an adventurer. And this was just sort of the next phase. And after I went through that relationship, it kind of was pretty interesting. And I wrote a book about it. And that's what's out there right now. And that's what I'm promoting.
So you wrote a book about this woman that you had this relationship with.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it's about it's not about her. It's about the relationship, and it's about the mental battle I went through sort of being in this relationship. The book is really a self-help book about how to identify the things that hold you back in this world. And that's what the book is about. It just was told through this journey on this non-monogamous relationship with this woman. So
Okay. So what was the battle that you went through in a relationship with this woman?
Well, I'm pretty solidly Gen X, born in 1970. I grew up with a set of values around masculinity and about femininity, about what the correct roles are about men and women in society, and how to be a man, and how men are tough and they don't show emotion and they don't cry. And I had all this socialization that I had built up. When I got into this relationship with this woman who was something of a female sexuality empowerment activist, is how I describe her. She
Okay.
was very public about who she was and how she wanted to live her life unapologetically. And so to have your girlfriend be someone who very publicly goes out and sleeps with other men was an incredible blow to my masculinity, because I was dealing with all these the paradigms that I had grown up with.
Hmm.
When I started to get into it, and the book is about that, me trying to understand all the emotions that this relationship brought up within me, I started trying to identify where all these negative emotions were coming from. Very almost even sort of toxic masculinity emotions, anger, violence. That I didn't do any violence, but that's what I wanted to do. And as I delve into my own psyche throughout the book, I just found out where a lot of that was coming from, what my socialization and my insecurities and a lot of childhood stuff. And where I ended up, and kind of giving the book, is that I found some things that were really holding me back from all areas of my life, not just in a relationship.
Right.
Uh, and that was an incredibly valuable experience to me, to find out what was holding me back. And a lot of things that were holding me back were things like imposter syndrome, or sometimes thinking I'm not good enough, and wondering, am I in the right place? These are all things from my childhood. So it
Hmm.
was really interesting that I never really identified them fully until I got into a relationship that was so stressful to my psyche and my masculinity and my sense of self, that it brought all these things to the surface.
Oh, okay. So how did you deal with those things? Did you seek some sort of counseling or therapy for that stuff, or you just
That would have been very smart.
that would have been a smart thing to do? Yeah, because sometimes we think that we can handle things on our own a lot of times and
Yeah.
without seeking professional help. Did that ever cross your mind at all, or no?
Yeah, no, it did. It does now. I mean, look, this all happened this started in 2006. So it's almost 20 years ago at this point. And it was a bit of a different world. And like I said, I grew up in a different environment where therapy necessarily wasn't, that's not what tough guys do. They don't
Yeah,
go to therapy, right?
that's true.
So I was
Right.
working against that initially. Now I'm actually in therapy now.
Right.
It's awesome. But I came from a very male dominated, almost even toxic male dominated world of this extreme sports competitive world,
Hmm.
and where everyone's trying to out tough the other guy. And throughout my 20s, I had always been this guy looking to show everyone else how tough I was. I base jumped, I climbed without ropes. I was a free soloist, so I free dove. I used to go to dive, not scuba dive, but dive in water, hundreds of feet below the surface without a tank, kind of
Hmm.
stuff. I did all these things to try to prove how masculine I was. And all that, what I did not realize is I was basing so much of my own self-image, my own masculinity, on what other people thought about me. When I got into a
Wow.
relationship with a woman who was so publicly, this is the way she describes herself as a super slut. Um, a lot of my world basically started seeing me as a wussy man, a guy who, oh, you're a weak man. You're in this relationship because you're not enough of a man to have your woman want you, which is obscene. I mean, it's a very archaic way of thinking, but nonetheless, it was quite impactful on my psyche, because that's the world I had grown up in.
Right.
So the first thing I had to do was start recognizing how much of my behavior throughout my life was about trying to convince other people I was tough, and instead of just trying to be tough on my own, I was the person I needed to convince, not other people. And that
Hmm.
was sort of a big realization, that in order I was trying to convince other people because I couldn't convince myself. I needed
Right.
them to tell me I was tough. So that was a huge lesson to learn
Right.
about, hey, no, you have to do things that you think are tough. So you think you're tough, and it doesn't matter what other people think.
Hmm.
And back to your initial statement about, well, were you in therapy? Like, yeah, duh, I should have been in therapy. But again, I came from this world where that wasn't what men did.
Yeah.
So
And they look at and not only that, we live in a world where people think is especially when it come down to men. For some reason, it's society makes it make you feel like it's a weakness,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, to
Hmm.
seek therapy. And that comes from, I know from where I grew up, in my household, we didn't talk about therapy. We didn't know anything about what it was to seek help. As a matter of fact, we didn't even know what it was we were basically dealing with. You know what I mean? So we just dealt with it and just kept going on about our lives. And that's the thing that's the stigma that needs to be broken, like in today's
Totally.
society. People just don't talk about their problems. They don't talk about things that are bothering them. They think that it's shameful to talk about it. When it's we should address our feelings. And
Absolutely. And what's one of
yeah,
the reasons I wrote the book is to because I thought, there's probably a lot of young guys who might who might think like I do, and
right.
they might be interested in hearing my story. Maybe it'll get them to think differently. So that is most definitely part of the reason I wrote the book. I also wrote just because I thought I wanted to express it, and I thought it was sort of an interesting story. But I guess we kind of all think our stories are interesting, don't we?
Yeah, that's true. There's everybody has a story.
Yeah, everyone has a story.
Yeah.
Um, There was one of the other things that was interesting is that when I met this woman, I was totally enamored with her for a lot of different reasons. I mean, she was really smart, she was beautiful, she was getting a doctorate from an Ivy League university, and she showed well to other people, which was great until they found out that she liked casual sex, um, and when we got into the relationship, and she was very upfront about who she was. There was nothing hidden with her. She was totally truthful. I
Hmm.
went in with this bravado, like, oh, I can handle anything. I got this, no problem.
Hmm.
Sure, I can take it. I'm tough. I'm one of the toughest guys I know because look at the things I do. And it was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life, and it broke me down so
Hmm.
hard. And that was a great lesson of this. I had no humility around my toughness until I met my match.
Right, right,
And got
right.
into a situation that I didn't know how to handle socially. And that was, wow, have a little humility. You don't go in with all that bravado when you're into a new environment. And it wasn't until I accepted that I really had a lot of fear around this. Once I uncovered the fear, once I started accepting my fear, all of a sudden I was able to start processing everything I was going through. And what was interesting is that that's exactly how I had existed in the extreme sports environment. People say, "Oh, you're fearless." I'm like, "No, I have tons of fear." Part of the reason the extreme sports is exciting and interesting is because of that fear, not in spite of it, right? You're trying to figure out how to control the fear, to figure out how to absorb it and how to rationalize it and how to still operate in an extreme environment while you're experiencing these emotions. So
Hmm.
once I started applying those lessons to this relationship, that's when things started turning the corner for me.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, so your career, you have a diverse career. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
you went from what made you want to go into the Wall Street?
because I wanted to make a lot of money.
Okay.
But as I say in the book, I left it within a year and a half. I left working at one of the big banks. I was working at one of the big investment banks. I left it. It was just filled with it was it was boring and it was filled with soulless individuals. I couldn't take it. And
Really?
that's after, yeah, I was just like, man, what is this? It was just I didn't like the environment. I
Yeah.
honestly I thought it sucked. And the money was nice, but I figured I can do this if I go into business for myself. I don't need to be a slave to this environment. So that's actually
Right.
when I started. When I left Wall Street in 2007, right before the crash, actually, I went into started my first business.
Oh, okay. What kind of business do you
I
have?
was a tech. I was a software engineer, and when I was working on Wall Street, I was writing software to analyze stock trades and that uh, to analyze patterns in stock trades. So then I went into my own. I opened my own business, building. So my partner and I, we were building software for hedge funds and such for them to analyze and keep track of what was going on, so they could make a lot of money.
Right, right.
So yeah, so
That's
that
good money.
that's what that's what I was doing.
That's good money right there, building software.
Yeah,
Uh,
that has been a great, that was, so in my 20s when I was competing and engaging in all these extreme sports, I was absolutely dead broke. I was living out of my truck. I was dumpster diving for my food, but I was writing. I always was a journaler. So that's eventually the journaling became the writing I am that I'm doing
mhm,
today. But that was my 20s. 20s was just existing, driving around my truck, doing these adventure sports, competing, teaching, doing a
mhm.
little writing, taught high school for a little while, high school physics for a little while, before going to software and then going to Wall Street and then becoming an entrepreneur.
Oh, okay. Wow. Wow. You've been around. You've done a lot of things, which tells me that you're an open-minded person. And,
I like to believe that.
yeah. Now, when your passion for adventure is not actually the reward, but is actually the process of
Right.
going
Yeah,
through
exactly. So the title of the book is Seek the Risk, but that's only half of the full statement. But the full statement is seek the risk, not the reward.
mhm,
We actually used to call it experience hunting versus trophy bagging. But I had a someone who's very special to me change it a long time ago, change it, say, oh, you're seeking the risk, not the reward. And I thought that was a much better way to say experience hunting versus trophy bagging. But the
right.
point is that if you're doing an activity purely for the goal, right? Just so you can just say, hey, I've achieved this, right?
Mm,
Instead of embracing all the trials and tribulations you have to go through to get to that goal, you're missing the whole point,
that's true.
right? And it's the learning and the living is in the struggle, not in taking the trophy and putting it on your mantelpiece, right? Putting
Right.
it on your mantle. That's trophy bagging. If you're doing something just to tell people you did it versus doing something so you can enjoy doing it,
Mm-hmm.
it's what's your motivation? And as a much younger man, in my early 20s, my motivation stemmed around the trophy. I was just doing things to try and prove to people I was good at this. Look at these trophies. I'm successful. I'm attractive to women. And so, yeah, seeking the risk, not the reward. Now, it's a bit of a play, a word play, right? Because obviously you're doing something for a goal. But
Mm.
if you don't embrace the fear, if you don't embrace the struggle, if you don't embrace the experience, if that's not the point, then why are you doing it?
Yeah,
Right?
that's
Don't be a
true.
trophy bagger, be an experience hunter. That's what life is. Life is about experiences, it's not about trophies.
I like that. I like that because you got to enjoy the journey,
Hmm.
and that's where I'm at in life, enjoying the journey. I had to slow myself down and stop looking for, if you're doing things for money or like you said, the reward, there's no fulfillment. I know I don't get no fulfillment out of that. I mean, obviously we all, don't I mean, I enjoy having money. I
Yeah.
enjoy
You
it.
need money.
I mean, it pays bills or whatever the case may be. But, the fulfillment you get mostly is having a purpose and going through the journey or going through, like you said, the struggle before you get to the reward,
Right.
and the fulfillment of what it's doing for other people. I
Right.
know that's the fulfillment I know I get, like you said, if you're just doing it just to show off and say, oh, I did it, I got this is what I can do. It's just no fulfillment that you really get in that.
Exactly. I mean, even writing the book, Seek the Risk, was the embodiment of that. Like, I didn't write it because wanted to make a lot of money. I wrote the book because I wanted to learn how to write a book, and I wanted to write a book, and I was hoping people would enjoy it. And I've gotten over 200 emails from readers and listeners because it's an audio book as well, just thanking me for writing it and asking questions and engaging with me. And that, to me, that's the sweetest reward that I've gotten is this experience. I embraced the experience, the struggle. It took 2.5 years to write it, and the end result is I had this wonderful experience, and now I am reaping the reward of getting to engage with people on it. But yeah, money was never the
It's
goal. I mean,
never.
it'd be nice if it became a bestseller, made a lot of money. That would be awesome. But that
Hmm.
wasn't that wasn't why I wrote it.
Right, right. So, you quickly developed a passion for exploration and pushing boundaries, which led you
Yeah.
to pursue extreme sports like
Hmm.
free low, what is it, free solo rock
Free
climbing?
solo, yeah, free solo means climbing without ropes.
What is free? What is that? Free solo
Free
rock climbing.
soloing. It's like you mean you know what rock climbing is, right?
Well, I know what rock climbing is, but
Right,
is
but
that
normally
considered
people
free
so
solo?
normally no, normally people rock climb with ropes. So if you fall, the rope catches you.
Right.
So when you free solo rock climbing, you don't have ropes. It means you can't fall. If you fall, you're it's over,
Oh,
so to speak.
okay.
It's the ultimate adventure, the ultimate extreme sport. There've been a few movies about it. I don't do it anymore. I did it a lot as a younger guy, but I really liked pushing myself out of the comfort zone. My whole life, I've enjoyed being out of the comfort zone because I think out of the comfort zone is where first a lot of learning happens. Plus, there's a lot of excitement there. Now I am not in any way suggesting people go free solo or do anything physically risky, but I do think that there is value in people pushing themselves wherever your limit is, wherever your comfort, wherever your comfort ends and the risk begins for you, your discomfort begins. That line is what I think everyone should play with, because when you step over that line and get into the discomfort, a place where you're on edge or you're set off your stability, you're going to learn how your body reacts to stuff, and you're going to learn things about yourself that can help you become a fantastically better version of yourself. I think at least
Hmm.
that's how I've lived my life, and I've encouraged people to live theirs that way too, because I think there's value. And I'm not saying one person's line of where they're uncomfortable is right or wrong. Everyone has their own element. Maybe just leaving your house is your discomfort. Maybe you're a person who has a lot of fear about that. Okay, that's great. So you should leave your house a little bit, just a little bit of time. Keep pushing further and further, because
Right.
as more time you spend in that discomfort zone, the more you're going to learn about yourself, and the more you're going to make it comfortable. Or you're
Right.
going to learn, you know what, I actually don't like this, and then you've figured it out. If you're going to say no to something, make sure it's no because you don't like it or you think it's not right for you. Don't say no purely because you're afraid.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a good statement to make. Now, you also and encourage other people to step out of their to face their fears. And is
Mhm.
this something that you do often? Do you work with other groups of people?
I haven't actually worked. I haven't worked with people yet, but since the book came out, a number of men's therapy groups have reached out to me because they felt it was a pretty good narrative, and I've begun talking to people who lead groups like that about possibly giving talks and such. But I haven't done it yet. The book just came out this year, so it's all very brand new. But I'm not opposed to it. If people are interested in what I have to say, I'll happily share my experiences. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. So, seek the risk. Wow. I like that title. I really
Thank you.
do. I
Thank
do
you.
like that title. It's different because basically that's what we're doing. We're seeking risk. And and through seeking that risk, you're actually like you said, you're learning a lot about yourself, because how would you know if you're good at something unless you take that risk and you
Or
take
if you
that
even like something, right? Good or
or
even like,
if
I mean, yeah,
right,
who knows?
exactly. I did the same thing actually with this podcast. I took a risk. I had started this podcast in the middle of recovering from a really bad injury. And I said to myself, you know what? I got to do something to keep my mind occupied. I was like, I gotta, because I was a person who went from constantly going out, moving around, doing this, doing that, to being stable and stuck in the house. And mentally, it was basically driving me up the wall. And I was like, I gotta do something while I can't move. So I got this mic, I got the backdrop. I started the podcast and I have no experience I had a lot of experience in freelance journalism, but I didn't have experience in podcasting. And I was like, you know what? It's basically the same thing. You're just talking to people. Basically that's what I did. I took the risk and I just kept going. And here we are at what, 30,000 subscribers now. And
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm excited about that. And I'm still learning a lot about myself as I'm going along on this journey. which is amazing. And I'm talking to so many different people all over the world. And it's just an amazing adventure. This is like an adventure for me too.
Look, it sounds like starting this podcast is the epitome of seeking the risk. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Trying
Yeah.
new things is the epitome of seeking the risk, right?
Yeah.
I want to try this. I don't know how to do it. Maybe it'll be hard, maybe it'll be easy, maybe I'll be scared, but yeah, going for it that sounds exactly like what I'm talking about, and you're doing it. So it's
Yeah.
great. I applaud you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's like you coming out of a comfort zone. It's like you coming
Yeah.
out of, and then you think about your past too. Like, I was married for a long time, and then when you put things, sometimes you put your passion and things that you want to do for yourself on hold for family, for children, for work or whatever. And then when you find yourself in a situation when you have that opportunity to be able to do the things that you want to do for yourself, you just go for it. And basically that's what I did. I said, I'm just gonna go for it and see, and I enjoy it. I enjoy, just being able to provide the information to an audience who might be in the need of being able to needing to heal.
Hmm.
So it's amazing how life can take you on these ups and downs and these different, you know, uh adventures, I guess you want to say.
Yeah,
So
definitely adventures. I would think starting your own podcast is a big adventure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you gotta talk in front of it's like you're in front of the world basically. And you're speaking in front of the world, and then you have to sometimes you get those things where you start worrying about what people think, and then you be like, oh, forget it. I don't care what nobody thinks. I'm just gonna do me and just keep it moving. So yeah. So let me tell me a little bit more about you know, you pushing the boundaries through all the things you do like skydiving, you do backcountry skiing and
Right.
base jumping. What is base jumping?
Base jumping is jumping off of cliffs, bridges, antennas, buildings with parachutes. It's jumping off a building with a parachute. That's a base jump, as opposed to jumping out
So
of an
you
airplane.
actually jumped off of a building with a parachute?
Yeah, and an antenna, a bridge, cliff. Yeah.
Okay. Oh gosh, boy, that's you got a lot of courage to do that. Now have you was this something you have done? Was this something you practiced before, or you just
Well, I mean, there's a long history, right? I got into rock climbing as a young kid, regular rock climbing with ropes and such. It wasn't
okay?
until I got
Let
sorry,
me pause
what?
you for a second, Adam.
Sure, sure.
I got a delivery at my door real quick. Hold
No
on.
problem, no
Okay.
problem. Telling you about how I got into the base jumping, skydiving, and such. So
Base jumping, yeah.
yeah. Well, it started my first adventure started with rock climbing, and as I got into rock climbing with ropes, regular rock climbing, eventually I saw people free soloing, and that scared me. So therefore,
Hmm.
I was kind of drawn to it. I'm like, oh, let me try that. Um, uh, and so that was my first sort of pushing my boundaries was the with the free soloing. But because I had this adrenaline, people call it adrenaline junkie. I just had a lifestyle where I liked the adrenaline high. I had heard of skydiving and I wanted to try it. So in college, I started skydiving, and once I was in the skydiving world, I met people who were also base jumpers because you need to learn how to fly a parachute first before you can use one to jump off an object, a building or a cliff. So after I've been skydiving for a number of years, I I asked people who were base jumpers if, hey, I'd like to go with you sometime. And people would then give you their knowledge. And that's how that started. I was always pushing the boundaries of what, ooh, this seems a little scarier. Let me try that. So
Right.
I was always pushing myself out of the comfort zones. And so that life philosophy of always trying to push my boundaries is I learned that in the sports before I applied it to business and I applied it to my social world. And I have to say, the social world, applying it to your social interactions was absolutely the hardest. And I'm not suggesting people need to go out and have physical risks because that's a personal choice and it's not for everybody. I know that. I just needed that in order to learn how to take social risks. And I
Right.
think the social risks, learning how to do that, and that's mostly what the book is about. Learning how to take social risks and even business risks
Mm-hmm.
is the thing that really excels us in life. So yeah, I hope that
Yeah.
answered your. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
Yeah, that did answer my
Okay.
question. Yeah, that's interesting. Boy, you've done some things that, oh gosh, I don't think I have the guts to do. So
But that's
I
okay. I'm sure you have done things that I don't have the guts to do. We're all different. We all have limits, and we all have areas that we're comfortable, and other areas we're discomfort. So
right.
I celebrate everybody. And what one of the greatest things that writing this book did for me was I've started meeting a ton of people like yourself who
Mm.
I would never have met normally, and everyone's got their own risk. What's your risk? Versus your reward. What does that mean to you? And I love hearing people's stories.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's something different too, to be able to do all those different adventures. One of my fears I had to face was flying again. I didn't think I would ever fly again after 9/11. And
Mhm.
what happened was I was dating this guy who's an engineer, and his job requires him to travel everywhere. So one year he was in California, I think, for 2 years, and it just happened to be a time that I was off from work, and I wasn't planning on taking any kind of vacation. And he was like, "Would you like to come out here to California?" And I was like, "I would love to come to California, but how am I going to get there?" I said, "I'm scared to fly." He was like, "Well, if you want to come out here, you're going to have to fly." So
Can't walk.
and this was in 20, what was this? Just 2013, I think it was, or 2014, I
So
want
it's
to
pretty
say.
soon after 9/11. Oh no, not
Yeah,
9/11,
it was 20.
2001. Yeah, what okay, that's right.
Yeah, so I said, okay. I was all excited, about the trip and everything, and packed my bags, the whole nine. And I got to the airport, and it's funny because I got to the bar at the airport, and I told the bartender, I said, I'm gonna need about 3 drinks all at the same time. Because I was like, I'm flying to California, which was like a 4 hour flight, and here I am having these jitters, and once I got on the plane, I was fine, and then I said to myself, "Man, I should have been doing this a long time ago." Then I just kept flying. Next thing you know, I was in Vegas, and then I'm flying to this place, so it was like I faced my fear, for the
Perfect. That's
first.
awesome. How'd that feel?
Yeah. It felt good. And,
Right?
and
Right? Doesn't it?
yeah, it felt so good. The feeling of just facing your fear and then saying, man, I should have did this a long time ago, but now I'm doing it. So, I
That's
understand what you mean.
It's literally exactly what I'm talking about. In that, in going out of the comfort zone, there's a very good chance you're going to give yourself a fantastically better life, right?
Right.
Because you can travel and go places. You face your fear, and wow, it just opened up a world to you.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So it's good to come out of that comfort zone, like you said. I mean, because, you just don't know what you'll miss out on so much if you don't. So much in life if you don't come out of that comfort zone. So it's so important. Um, Also, I'm just trying to figure out what other questions I want to ask you as far as you're from Brooklyn. You said Brooklyn, right?
I'm from New York City. I live in
You,
Brooklyn now. I grew up
okay,
in New
so
York City. I grew up in
yeah,
Manhattan, then I moved to Brooklyn.
yeah, I love New York. I come to New York often.
It's a
Uh,
fun place.
I love New York. It's just too expensive. I just.
Yeah, yeah, it is expensive.
I guess depend on where you're at in New York. I know Manhattan is very expensive.
Very expensive, very crowded too. That's more
Yeah.
why I'm
So
not
what line
there.
of work are you currently now? You're not in Wall Street anymore. So what are you currently doing now?
So I had been one of my passions is home renovation.
Okay.
So that's what I do on the side, and I'm trying to make it as a writer now. I've I stopped working in tech, and after when I started writing the book, and finished the book. Now I'm doing a writer's blog and I'm getting ready to start a second book. And yeah, I'm just, I don't know, feeling it out. It's a different, after the pandemic hit, I decided that, I just want to do things that are interesting. I wanted to try something new. I changed my
Something
life
that,
during the yeah, pandemic. And so that's what I'm doing now. And
yeah,
hopefully we'll see how long it lasts eventually. I'm going to
you
need
know,
to
one of the
start
things
making
that,
some real money again, but we'll see.
right, yeah. You know what? One of the things that I'm trying now is swimming. I never knew how to swim all my life. And I knew how to keep myself above water and keep from drowning, but I
That's
never
good.
knew how, how to
Yeah.
actually, swim. And that's one of the things that I'm learning now, and I'm enjoying it, because I knew how there was a point in my time where, like, if I would have gotten a pool, I would never get into the deep end of a pool. But now I get into the deep end and I swim, and I'm learning how to swim and breathe as I'm swimming. So there's different things that I'm encountering right now in my life that I'm finding that I'm enjoying a lot, you know?
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It was a challenge at first, but now I enjoy it. It's become a regular routine for me, So I can understand where you come from when you say, when you try all these different things in your life. What's the next thing you want to try?
Well, most recently was writing a book, like trying to be a writer. That's sort of what I'm in the center of. But I also decided I wanted to learn how to play an instrument. So I've been learning how to play the blues guitar. Bought an electric guitar, and I've been studying that for the last couple of years. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah,
And that's been a struggle. But it's
yeah,
great being at the bottom of the learning curve again. It's something, and trying to sinking into the instrument and really learning music has been it's that I guess that's my latest what I'm pushing myself at.
yeah, yeah. So if there's any advice that you would want to give of someone out there who's struggling with coming out of their comfort zone, someone who might be stuck in a situation and don't know how to come out of it, what advice would you want to give that person who's struggling with that right now?
Yeah, sure. So I want to be clear, when you say a situation, people can be in some really difficult situations. So I don't necessarily want to speak to that, but I will say that fear is natural. Everybody's got it. And that if you and it doesn't matter where, like I said, it doesn't matter where your edge is,
Mm-hmm.
where the edge of your comfort is. It's a very personal thing. Don't look to someone else. Look to yourself. Where's the edge of your comfort? And going right up to the edge of it and playing with that line and stepping over it, even just a little, dip a toe.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be very far. Just feel that discomfort. In the book, a line that I really love is I say I've really made a lifetime out of trying to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I'm out of my comfort zone, that's where living. That's where the real
That's a
juicy. That's where you have that
mm-hmm.
potential for real
Mm-hmm.
juicy living. It's not a guarantee. You can step over out of your comfort zone and have a horrible experience, but you have to that bad experience you have is part of the journey, and it
Mm-hmm.
teaches you so much about yourself. So I really would encourage, and I know that people have a lot of people with anxiety, a lot of people with fear. I certainly have it. We all have it. It's just, where is our line? So first, I would say never get hung up on where your line is. It's your
Right.
line, accept it, and play with it. Step over the edge. See what it feels like. If you really don't like it, okay, let's not go there again. Let's try a different side. Let's try a different edge and
Right.
go there. But I think that continual drive to find out where your boundaries are and go a little bit past them will help you, like I said, help you create just this a brilliant, you have a better chance of having an absolutely brilliant life if you keep doing that. That's what I
Right.
found, and it has sometimes worked out disastrously for me, and I was like,
Right.
yep, not doing that again.
Right.
But I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it somewhere else. So you have to, again, that's about seeking the risk, not the reward. Seek the experience, not the trophy. I want to see how I feel when I do this, when I get just outside that zone. So that I would really, I think that's, if there's one thing
Yeah.
I try I try and push, or not push. That's one thing I try to show people and how who I am and how wonderful it's been to me. It's that like just go get a little uncomfortable, have fun with
Mm.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Because you can always, like you said, if you don't like it, you can always try something else. But how would you
Yeah.
know what you enjoy or what you're comfortable at is if you don't jump out there. Yeah,
Right. I mean,
yeah.
like specifically in the book, it's about this relationship. I got into this relationship that made me very uncomfortable. Like this was scary. It
Mm-hmm.
was really awful. But the things I learned about myself, it forced me to look into my own head and find out where my shortcomings were. I found I had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of imposter syndrome that was left over from childhood. I found that I had a lot of fear of people not liking me because of all the teasing I got as being a redheaded, small kid as a child. I found all these things that were holding me back. I didn't even realize it, but those things were driving a lot of the fear that I
Mm-hmm.
had in this relationship. Now, in the end, the relationship, I decided the relationship wasn't worth it for me, and we walked away, and we're still very good friends. And she helped with the book, but what I came away with was I came away with this deep love for myself that I never knew. I never, I just, it was much deeper than I ever had before. A friend of mine said, it's wild. I was reading the book. You went in to try and fall in love with a woman and you ended up falling in love with yourself. And I thought, wow, yeah, you're right. And
Isn't that
so,
something?
yeah, it was just a perfect example of I've going through that relationship, going through that really hard point and dealing with all this judgment from everyone around me and forcing myself to look inward and find out who I was and who I wanted to be. I came out of that relationship a fantastically better version of myself. It never would have happened if I hadn't pushed myself to go out of my comfort zone.
That's true. Yeah. And the fact that you actually question yourself about what it is that was keeping you or the fear
Holding
that
me
you was
back. Yeah.
yeah what was holding you back and you dealt with it, you worked on it and it just you changed you into a whole nother person, so I'm happy for you about
Oh,
that.
thanks. Some people read the book and they go, "Oh, it's a book about non-monogamy," but a lot of people read the book and go, "Well, this is a book about mental health and self-help and finding out who you are and how to live your best life," which is kind of what I wrote, but it is through this salacious. To be full disclosure, the book gets fairly salacious about some of the crazy sexcapades that happen, but it's really is about how I dealt with it all and how I thought about it and how I thought about myself and how I thought about my female partner, and it was quite a journey.
Wow, 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 Adam, I really enjoyed having you on this podcast, man. You shared a lot in a short amount of time, I tell you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, Crystal.
Yeah, it really has. Could you let the audience know where they can get your book if they're interested in purchasing the book?
Absolutely. So there's a website for the book, and it's seektherisk.net.
Okay.
Seektherisk.net. I'll send you that. You can put it in the show notes or something. And you can reach me if anyone wants to email me, talk to me. I'm Adam at seektherisk.net.
Okay. Are you on social Instagram?
I there is a Seek the Risk
Oh, you
account on Instagram.
you are
Yeah,
on Instagram because
yeah,
I
yeah.
found you on Instagram and I actually followed you. So,
Oh, there you go.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, I mostly use the Instagram for either sharing some interesting stuff that other people do, or I have a writer's blog that I've been keeping up once a week, putting a new essay out once a week, and I use Instagram to sort of let people know there's a new story up there.
Mm-hmm,
But and
mm-hmm.
all of that is accessible through the website seektherisk.net.
Okay, cool. Okay. Adam, it's been a pleasure having you on. I'm glad we was able to finally link up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And for those who are tuning in right now, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Don't just subscribe, but also watch the content. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Let's Talk About This. Adam, thanks again. It's been a pleasure. And I'm definitely going to get the book. I always get all my guest authors. I usually get the books and I usually read them. So I will be definitely
It's
getting
an
the
audio.
book.
It's an audio. It's in Kindle. It's in paperback, and it's in audio. You can buy it from my website. You can buy it on Barnes and Noble, or you can buy it on Amazon. It's all there. So if you go to the website, there's all kinds of links there.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. Until then, take care, Adam. It was a pleasure again.
It was a pleasure.
Bye bye.
Bye.